From New York City for our audience worldwide, Bloomberg Real Yield starts right now, where we begin with the big issue, a fragmented vaccination rollout.
The biggest challenge, I think, by a long shot, is getting control of the virus.
Uncertainty around the timing with the vaccine rollout.
A slower success rate of the vaccination.
It's a pretty difficult backdrop for investors.
At the end of the day, this has been a health crisis.
Vaccinations are obviously key for markets.
The economy has very much been a function of the path of the virus.
The virus is going to continue to be a very significant issue for markets.
Markets have been conditioned to expect ample and predictable support from central banks.
The stimulus in the economy.
This very unhealthy codependency.
Rates are really, really low and moving higher.
You don't want to compete with someone who has an unlimited printing press.
Tough situation for income-oriented investors.
There is a huge amount of uncertainty here.
Joining us now on this story is Sri Sankaran of Morgan Stanley. Fantastic to get you back on the show, Sri. Let's just start right there. We came into 2021 and many people, including Morgan Stanley, were looking for that synchronized global growth story to emerge. Are you seeing a challenge to that yet, Sri?
So I would say near term, obviously there is increased focus on the trajectory of the virus. But at the end of the day, short answer to your question would be no. We still think that we are in a mode where we should see synchronized global recovery. We should see synchronized policy stimulus. And at the same time, I mean, the reflation theme and the trades thereof, those are the ones which still make sense for the full year 2020-21.
Sri, why do you think that's possible if we're not seeing a synchronized vaccination effort? If we're seeing it's broken down in places across Europe, better in the UK, better in the United States?
I think that's a fair question, but at the end of the day, this is an unprecedented scale and a compressed timeline over which something of this magnitude has to be rolled out. So I think it's fair to expect some degree of teething issues, some degree of glitches to begin with, and so on. But the broader theme is still that there is significant progress that is being made to get the vaccination program on track, and therefore, in the meantime, that's where the policy provides the bridge for us to get to the other side.
One thing that the team at Morgan Stanley did brilliant last year is come out early and lean into the early cycle playbook, and that worked. And I just wonder, as you lean into that a little bit more, Sri, and that's what it sounds like just speaking with you now, whether we shift through the sequencing of that playbook just a little bit differently, because the nature of the shock we worked through is so different and has been so different.
I think that's a very fair formulation, John. I mean, to us, the way we're thinking about the early cycle, what's similar is that we still think that corporate response function is going to be one which is driven by balance sheet repair. So to resolve this extraordinarily high leverage that corporate balance sheets are sitting on. But what is different about this early cycle is the pace at which funding markets have normalized. So not just in terms of the cost of funding, but the breadth of availability. That has meant that the incentive structure is not fully aligned as you would have seen in past cycles. The way we're reconciling is that we still think that some of the higher quality companies and the financial sponsors, they probably have a better alignment of both the ability and the willingness or the incentive to engage in more kind of M&A LBO style activity. So a bit more of the impulse on their early cycle M&A activity. But some of the down in quality cuspier credits on the IG side or the high yield complex, we still think that there is a stronger incentive for them to engage in deleveraging and balance sheet repair, which to us constitutes the crux of the early cycle narrative.
Sri, great to catch up. Sorry it's so short. Appreciate your time, sir. As always, Sri Sankaran there of Morgan Stanley.